Welcome, everybody, to day one at one of the toughest motorsports competitions in the world. That's right, I'm talking about the Rebelle Rally, and we're here at our live show presented by Toyota. Competitors have 250 kilometers today here in the beautiful public lands of California, but I have a very special guest. That's right, the one, the only scoring director extraordinaire, Ms. Chrissie Bevis. Chrissie, thank you for being here.
I'm glad to be here. I mean, it's better than being behind my desk, so.
That's true. That's true. Mostly we see Chrissie back in the corner of her desk, furiously working on her computer. We can see the sun's come out a little bit. Thank God we're not quite as cold as we were this morning. But I think we've seen a lot of action out on course. We predicted that some folks were going to get lost in those trees, and it looks like you've seen the YB tracker, and that prediction has come true.
Yeah, it sure has. Today started out with an on-time REC that was actually quite a bit easier than the one that they had on day 0.
You guys are so mean.
Let them practice on the hard stuff where it doesn't count. And then we sent them out on the course, and we had a lot of really high scores in the REC. But then the REC ended up in the trees, and that's when people had a lot of decisions to make and a lot of different roads up in the trees that they could have taken, and they took a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it on Google Earth, or Onyx Earth rather, and you could see that there were some roads, but I wonder how many roads were actually marked on their map.
A lot of them.
Really?
A lot of the roads were marked on the map, and it's actually pretty impressive when you look at their map. What you see in the Onyx maps is very similar, which you'd think would make it easier for them to not go the wrong way. But they did end up going quite a few different directions, and we can see that on the YB tracking.
All right, let's see what this YB tracker was showing us. So there we've got everybody just kind of hanging out in base camp.
And then as they start here, they're going on that yellow line, which is the GPX track of the REC route. But where that yellow line ends is the CP1, where then they start kind of going all over the place. And you can see how they're just all over the place. No one's kind of going the same way. Now, they did have some choices to make. There was an X route for the A's and B's, and there were a couple of CXs up in there as well. But some of those tracks, you can see that they are just kind of all over the place as they're cruising around up there in the trees. And then finally they get out. You can see how they're kind of getting out. And once they get out, they kind of get back onto track there.
And, that's really difficult because out there, there's nothing to really sight on. So you really needed to use your plotter and make sure that the direction that you have on your map is the direction that your compass is showing you when you take a heading on the road.
That's exactly right. Heading and distance don't lie. And, we say that all the time, but you can't sight things in the distance when you're in the trees, and it makes a big difference.
Right. So this today was all about making sure that they had their precise headings and also measuring their precise distance. And, that can be a little bit difficult. You've got that little ruler, and sometimes the road turns, and so trying to get a precise measurement on the distance can be hard. Mm-hmm. Now, I have seen these little roller things that it's a wheel, and it can measure distance that way. Have you ever used those?
I'm not a big fan of those, and I think it was just because when I was starting out, I tried those a couple of times, and those were the days that I did the worst, and I was like, all right, get rid of that tool. That one's not going to work for me.
They're out.
You can be more precise.
Yeah. All right. Well, we know as the day has progressed, we actually have some points on the board now. Now, folks at home, remember, just maybe your wife or your girlfriend or your sister or whatever, maybe they're behind, but that could be because they haven't gotten through the whole course yet. So don't take all of these scores as gospel until the end of the day and everyone has actually made it back into base camp. Because remember, this is a rally. It's not a race. It doesn't matter if you get there first. What matters is your navigational accuracy. Now, having said that, we've seen some pretty interesting choices today, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. Right up at the top, we see some of our typical people that are up there at the top of the standings, and the difference in their scores is just because of some of the choices that they've made today.
Yeah, so what happened there with Laura and Maria? They're 3 points behind Nina and Terilyn, who, of course, won last year. Laura and Maria were also on the podium, but what do we know exactly why they were 3 points behind?
We do, and it was because of a choice that they made to go to 3 instead of 3X. 3X was an interesting one because it was right around Obsidian Dome, which is a really, really cool feature in the landscape, and it's very distinct on the map. But it was a rough road to get around there, and it was only worth 1 more point. But it was difficult driving, but easy navigation. And so you can see that Nina and Terralyn were able to nail that one and get their full 6 points. And Laura and Maria went around to 3, and they actually only got 3 points at 3 because it was a harder navigation and easier driving.
Copy. And they were both in very capable vehicles. Nina and Terralyn are in that Jeep 4xe, and Laura and Maria are in a Bronco. I believe they're in a Bronco Raptor.
Yeah.
So, with that Haas suspension and those tires, a rough road shouldn't really intimidate them. I'm surprised. I'm very surprised that they made that choice.
Yeah, I mean, they went all the way over to 2X, and then decided not to go for 3X.
Wow. Wow. And see, that's why right out of the gate, you need to make sure that you're making all of those choices. Hopefully this 3-point discrepancy doesn't turn into a 4-point. And now we missed it 5, because if you start just not being accurate just by 1 point, those points can add up over 7 days of scored competition.
Yeah, they absolutely do. I also want to point out that we have one rookie team that is definitely higher up than the others.
Yeah, what do we have?
So it's 118 is the highest rookies, and they're sitting right in 10th right now in the standings. And
in an older Tundra, look at that, an older Toyota Tundra, last generation.
Right. That's right. And they, but you can see the next rookie team is quite a ways down there, and a lot of the rookies started farther back. Because they didn't do so well in the REC yesterday. Like I said, the REC yesterday was quite difficult, but also was their seeding for today.
Right.
And so we had a lot of the top teams, or at least the people who are really good at the RECs, starting off the line today.
Right. Which is just a punishment for them. You realize that, right? I mean, they do really well in the REC, and then they have to leave super early in the morning, which means that they have less time to plot. Less time to plot means that you don't see your overall day, or maybe you can see your overall day, but maybe your plots aren't quite so accurate.
But they're also the people that are faster at plotting because they have more experience.
In theory. Now, what I actually think is really interesting as well here is that we have an electric vehicle currently tied for 3rd with that is Lily and Alex in the Rivian R1T. They're tied for 3rd right now with Shelby Hall and Rory Lewis in a Bronco Raptor. Lily and Alex, they were rookies last year. They did really, really well. And I was talking to Lily. I'm like, you realize you could take it. You guys are good enough to take it, and the truck is good enough to take it. What's that?
I know they realized that.
Oh, I know, but I wanted to make sure that she knew that I knew that, because I would love to see an electric vehicle take it. When Rebecca and I came in here and we kind of pioneered the Electrified program with the R1T, we had the very first thing that was off the line, so there were a few problems with the truck, and then the next year there were still a lot of shakedown things that were happening with the truck, and we weren't able to confidently go to every single checkpoint that we wanted to go to. But now all of those problems have been taken care of. They've got really great vehicles. They're completely dialed in. They have a lot of experience. Lily is a smart driver, and Alex is a really good navigator. I would love to see an electric vehicle take first place.
Yeah, I hope, just like we saw that one decision with Laura and Maria, Lily and Alex are going to have to make the hard decisions and kind of just go for everything.
Yeah.
And even though they are want to play the long game with the charging and not being quite sure, that as a beta program, the EVs may not have the chance to charge on course at some times.
Right. They're not charging today. They have 250 kilometers, and they're not charging today.
Yeah.
So that shouldn't necessarily be a problem for any of the electric vehicles. I know that the Rivians have enough range. I'm pretty sure that the Mach-E has enough range, so I'm not particularly worried for that. But, as we get closer to more softer conditions, that's going to eat up more of their range, just as it does in ICE vehicles. So, yeah, that's an extra something that they definitely have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So, I'm also very excited to see So we've got the 2011 Tundra. Good rookies are happening.
Mm-hmm.
We've got an electric vehicle doing really well. We've got all of the ones that we thought were going to be in the top right now are in the top, right? Shelby Hall and Rory, Nina and Terilyn, and then Laura and Maria. So there's no surprises who's there. It's a little bit of like where everyone is going. Now, as we get further into the day, they're going to go way south. They're going to have a choice to go way south and pick up a couple of checkpoints there.
Yeah, so it's the south route, so heading from north to south from some of the green checkpoints up there, heading south is where the top teams are going to have to choose. They're going to have to choose the X route, and that is a hard technical driving route. It's much slower. It's shorter, but it's much slower. Everyone else will go around on the pavement to those lower checkpoints, and so it's very technical. There is steep drop-offs. You're not going to want to go up there if you're afraid of heights. But any of those top teams are going to have to go that way to get those extra points today.
Right. So definitely low gear coming down, wanting to save their brakes, keeping their speed, keeping everything in control, making sure that tires retain as much grip as possible. A lot of these vehicles have downhill descent control. Sometimes that can be great. It can give you a little bit more confidence. Other times it can be really noisy and a little annoying. So it'll be interesting to see how teams decide to use the technology that's available to them in their vehicles.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I like using my foot.
Me too. Yeah, it's and another thing when you guys are looking at the scoring today, you can't just look at Group A for the top teams because there was no seeding, coming in from yesterday. There was all 0 points, right? So when they went out today, it was a random draw between A's and B's.
Okay.
And so not all of the top teams are going to be in A, and so you kind of have to scroll back between Group A and Group B to see where those top teams are.
Right. So as we continue along on the competition, eventually the teams that are doing really well, they will all be competing in Group A. The teams that most of the rookies will get divided up and be in Group B. And then, of course, X-Cross is our Group C. So we've got teams that are already at checkpoint. Does that say 17X? They're already at 17X. It's like 115.
Yeah. We were expecting that it was going to be a little bit easier of a day and a pretty fast day, and that teams might start rolling in here around 2 o'clock.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You guys got to make this harder. I'm sorry.
It's the first day. We do believe, at this point there is, Nina and Terilyn are able to get 100%, where last time I looked at it.
Has anyone ever gotten 100% on a day before?
Oh, yeah.
They have?
Yeah. That's when we realized that we're making it too easy. So if only one team gets 100%, it's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's when more than one team gets 100%, we're like, we good. Yeah.
So let's take a look at Group C, the X-Cross category. Now, this is a smaller category, but it is no less competitive. We have some great navigators, some really good drivers out here. I need to take off my glasses.
Yeah,
I can't
200.
See. Team 200, Alyssa, they are out. They were last year. We expect. We've got the new X2. This is the new
Melissa was first last year. She had a different navigator last year.
Yes, she did have a different navigator.
But look at their REC score. They nailed the REC.
Yeah.
And then actually look at the X-Cross REC scores. They're really high.
Yeah.
So the X-Cross did really well overall in that REC. They did really well.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm just so excited for these X-Cross ladies. So the next generation X2 is doing pretty good. Chrissie and I, if you can see us on camera, we're both like leaning towards it. It's so tiny. My eyes are so bad.
This is great, though. Look how well they're doing. X-Cross is going to be quite competitive.
Yeah, for sure.
And they've been going back and forth today between those top two, even those top three, depending on how far along they've been. And so even though they're all a little bit farther back, you can tell that compared to the 4x4s, they are having to drive slower on some of those rough roads.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then to get those final points after CP 15 and 16, they had to go a big long transit on the road around to get those southern points of 17
that's
and
probably
18
where
and
they
19.
are now.
Yep. Now, if they got if they got 15, then I'm surprised that they're not going to go for 16. So I bet they're going to go for 16.
Yeah, for sure. And then if they come around, then they'll be coming around on the road to get to 17X, 18, and 19.
That's right.
And then, don't they have 20 checkpoints today?
They do. If we can scroll to the right here, then you can see the rest of their.
Okay, but
it does go to 21. And if you can see over there at home, you'll see that it goes to 21, and then you can also see that there might be some penalties. And so if you see any of those negative 10s,
right,
even negative 20s over there, those are going to be wide miss penalties.
Right.
Yeah.
So 208 has a minus 10, so we know that is most likely a wide miss penalty where they were outside of the bullseye. They're outside of that full range. Now, you can use that as a little bit of a strategy. If you're really lost, you can click your tracker. It will give you your Latin long, but your punishment for that is negative 10 points. But
That's
at least
right.
it can put you back on track.
That's right.
Yeah.
So wide miss penalties happen at a variety of times, but one of them is if they're lost, they can click that tracker and get back on. But also it happens when they think that they're at a black diamond and they're not. And so I always recommend that if they were going for that black diamond and they signaled outside of it, they plot it, and then they can go and nail it because they're usually pretty close to it.
Right, so their net loss might only be 5 points instead of 10 points.
That's
so it's
right.
a way to get some back if they feel like, oh, we have made a mistake.
That's right.
And one of the things that they can do is once they get that lat long, they can plot it on their map. Then they can see, oh, we actually are 3/4 of a kilometer. We're 900 meters away. But at least it's much easier to navigate just 900 meters to an accurate point instead of trying to navigate 24 kilometers to an accurate point.
It definitely is. It'll also tell you if you're just one road over and you're like, oh man, we just missed that other road, and you can go back to that road and just measure your distance down that road.
Well, listen, I'm so jealous of today because I really, really, really want to go up and drive all these roads. So I'm going to make sure that I get a copy of the points from you so that I can go ahead and come up here on my own and do it because I think it's going to be amazing.
There's a lot of the Rebelles that do a year and then they keep all their CP guys then they go back out and get in little groups and go back and rerun their days.
Exactly. And then
I'm like,
no
invite me. I never get to do any of it.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Chrissie. I appreciate it. I know you need to get back to being behind your computer and just just like a little monkey on a typewriter. But thank you so much for being here. Our next show is going to be tonight at 6 p.m. from 6 to 7 p.m. We'll have some late Rebelles coming on in. We might have a couple of interviews for you. So please do tune in. You can do that at rebellerally.com/live. If you've missed any of our shows, they are on the Rebelle socials, either on Facebook or YouTube. That is at Rebelle Rally. You cannot miss us. And we also have a really cool docu-series that is also on the Rebelle Rally Facebook page as well. We've got 2 of those episodes on the docu-series called Dead Reckoning. It is really, really, really good. So please go and watch those. You can pick them up on YouTube or Facebook on the Rebelle Rally channels. Again, I'm Emmy Hall with the fabulous Chrissie Bevis saying good afternoon to you all. We'll see you tonight from the Rebelle Rally Live, sponsored by Toyota.